Welcome to the introductory video for Restoration Movement in America. In the course of this video, we'll provide a brief overview of the course, as well as some of the requirements, the assignments for the course for this semester. I would encourage you to take a look at the syllabus, which goes into a little bit more detail, provides more specific due dates, as well as additional information about the course that won't be covered in this video. Additionally, if you have further questions after reviewing this video and the syllabus, by all means get in contact with me. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have. Let's start off by talking a little bit about this course and what we mean when we're referring to the Restoration Movement in America. So in the course of this semester, we're going to be examining the history of the American Restoration Movement. The American Restoration Movement is the historical background for Faulkner University, and that's the movement that Faulkner developed in. Sometimes the movement is also called the Stone-Campbell movement because of two important leaders, Barton W. Stone and Alexander Campbell. But basically, our focus is going to be on the history of this movement, the contributions made by this movement, because of its connection to Faulkner University, and because we in the College of Biblical Studies believe it's important for all of our students, whether they share the same background with Faulkner University or not, to recognize the important contributions that a variety of people have made coming out of this movement, this attempt to restore New Testament Christianity that largely is a part of the American context, although we will see some important European backgrounds. In doing that, we will look at a variety of people, most of those within the Restoration Movement, but we'll also take a look at some other people in the history of American Christianity, and some other movements both in Europe and in America that are important. But we'll be looking at important leaders, important people that made significant contributions in the history of the American Restoration Movement. We'll be looking at developments and changes and movements within that movement, as well as the beliefs and practices that have been engaged in by people in the Restoration Movement. In so doing, our hope is that we will not only think about the history of the Restoration Movement, but also think about contemporary Christianity, thinking about what kind of lessons and ideas we might get from the history of the Restoration Movement, but also think about the contributions it has made for particularly those within the churches of Christ, those that share the religious heritage of Faulkner University, but also what other insights and perhaps changes can be made to contemporary Christianity more broadly, if we use that term very, very broadly. What are some things that we can see, changes perhaps that need to be made, either within churches of Christ or within the broad system of Christianity? For the course, there are a couple of textbooks. I guess we can call them textbooks that we'll be using. These are all available online, and they are available for free. They're all in the public domain. The links to them are available in the syllabus, as well as under modules in the Canvas site. If you would like printed copies, if you're a person that prefers to have printed copies are available for Alexander Campbell's The Christian System, as well as David Lipscomb's On Civil Government. And if you want some information about that, feel free to get in contact with me, and I can point you in the direction of some good editions of that. Really, the only way to get a restoration of the ancient order of things is either to buy a copy of Alexander Campbell's The Christian Baptist, which was a journal that he published in the 1820s, or to print out copies of the articles that we'll be looking at online. So it's a little bit more difficult to get printed copies of those articles. The Christian system is kind of Campbell's, we might use the term systematic theology in some sense, in that he covers a variety of topics, attempting to examine the scriptural evidence about those topics. And it is a very broad work. The Restoration of the Ancient Order of Things is a series of 32 articles written by Campbell over the course of several years that focus on some issues, different elements within Christianity, sometimes practices, sometimes offices, other beliefs, that Campbell believed needed to be changed, that there needed to be a restoration of the original New Testament forms. Now, as we go through these articles, one valid question would be, is the kind of the answer or the restoration idea that Campbell is pointing out, is this truly accurate? Was New Testament Christianity like what Campbell presents it in a variety of his articles? So that's a legitimate question that we should ask as we read through these. And then the final textbook, David Lipscomb's On Civil Government. Lipscomb we can put as kind of a second or third generation leader within the Restoration movement. Lived in the South, in Tennessee predominantly. And this work is focused on the issue of what is the origins and purpose of government, where did it come from, particularly thinking human government, not so much government within the church. But then also asking, what role can a Christian have in government? And how should Christians be involved, if at all, within government? And so this is kind of Lipscomb's answer to this, coming right around the time of the Civil War. And so as we get to that part in the discussion of our history of the Restoration movement, we'll see that there's a good bit of conflict in the Restoration movement about the Civil War, as there was in other forms of Christianity. And so, Lipscomb's kind of concerned about how people are approaching that within the Restoration movement. So I think that it will provide a rather interesting look at government from 19th century eyes that might not necessarily line up with how a lot of people view government today from a Christian standpoint. But it's a fascinating look. But it also requires us to kind of consider, right, are some of the arguments that he is making legitimate? Is he accurate? Does he reflect accurate scriptural understanding of the text, or are there other things at work? So that, I think, will be a part of the reading of that book. I want to briefly talk here about the objectives in the course and what the kind of the goals of the course would be, what kind of things I'm expecting of you, and the hope of what you'll be able to do, what you'll know by the end of the course. So one of the things we'll be doing is looking at the historical backgrounds of the American Restoration movement. Where did this Restoration movement come from? particularly here we're thinking about historical developments that led to the American Restoration Movement. But then we'll also talk about the history of the movement. So, what led to the movement, what did the movement do once it was started? And so we'll think about developments in Europe, going back as far as the Reformation period, but then also some developments within American society and culture that led to the development of the Restoration Movement. We'll also talk about the three major groups that come from the American Restoration Movement. The three of those would be the Christian Church Disciples of Christ. Sometimes we'll just refer to them as Disciples of Christ, but that's one movement that comes from the Restoration Movement. The independent Christian churches, sometimes referred to as Christian Churches, Churches of Christ. And then finally, the Churches of Christ. Those are the three major groups that come out of the American Restoration Movement. And we'll talk about various splits that take place in that history and how those groups developed, where they are different, where they are similar as well. But then we'll also talk about maybe some minor divisions, particularly within the Churches of Christ, which will be our major focus because that's the background of Faulkner University. But there are some other minor groups that develop that we won't really spend too much time talking about. And there are some other connections between the Restoration Movement and some other religious groups that we might briefly mention here and there, but our main focus is going to be on those three groups and the development, with Churches of Christ being more prominent than the other two. And so at the end of the course, hopefully you'd be able to talk about where the Restoration Movement came from, the three major types, what kind of led to the development of three groups, how those groups are similar, how those groups are different. Hopefully as well, you'll be able to talk about who are some of the main figures, what are some of the main developments in the history of the American Restoration Movement. So when we talk about Alexander Campbell, at the end of the semester, if you hear somebody talk about Alexander Campbell, you'll have an idea of who he is and why he's important. And then finally, being able to talk about some of the arguments for and against the restorationist principles of Churches of Christ. That'll be another aspect to this that we will cover. Now, it'd be great if at the end of the semester, I could ask you, can you do these things? And you say yes, and I say, great, here's an A. But it doesn't quite work like that. So there'll be a variety of assessments, assignments that you will need to do to complete, to demonstrate you can do those things, you can describe those things, you can identify those people. And so over the course of the semester, there will be a variety of these assessments. As I mentioned, these are described a little bit more in the syllabus as well as on the Canvas site, but I'll review each of these. We have some critical reviews, or a critical review, reflection essays, discussion posts, and 3 exams. One of the first assignments will be the critical review. You will only need to do one review, which will be due towards the end of the semester. Check the dates on Canvas or in the syllabus for more specific dates. You will have your choice of doing a review on either the Christian system or on civil government. So feel free to pick them. If you would like to talk to me more about it, that's fine. So feel free to get in contact with me about that. The essay must be 1,500 words, which works out to be about 5 pages. And basically what you will need to do is the first part of the work, your paper, will be an examination, or excuse me, not an examination, a summary of the book. So if you chose On Civil Government, for example, you would spend the first part just kind of giving an overview of what Lipscomb says in On Civil Government. What's his main points? What's his overarching argument? The second part of your essay should be focused on kind of your evaluation of the point or argument that Lipscomb is trying to make. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? Why? What is strong about his argument? What is weak about his argument? It's that analysis, that evaluation, that is going to be a key part to succeeding with this article or with this essay. It's not just a matter of providing a summary of what Lipscomb says, but that evaluation or analysis that's really important as well. As I said, that will be due toward the end of the semester. Other writing assignments include a series of reflection essays throughout the semester. They are related to the restoration of the ancient order of things articles that I mentioned earlier. Each assignment will have an option of selecting between 2 or 3 different articles. So you have your choice as to which articles you would like to write on. And so it will consist of reading the article. They aren't extremely long, but they do have a certain amount of length to them, but they're not too problematic as far as length. And you will need to write a essay that reflects on the particular article you've chosen. In Canvas, during the particular weeks that they are due, you'll see the options there. Get your choice of articles, and then read it, and then write on it. So there are 5 options throughout the semester, or 5 due dates throughout the semester. You will need to submit 4 essays. So you could skip the first one and do the last 4. Do the first 4, skip the last one. Do 2 in the beginning, 2 in the end, skip the 1 in the middle. Right. However you would like to do it, whichever ones you would like to choose. So do those 4. Basically, the assignment is to provide a brief summary, kind of an overview of what Campbell is saying about the particular topics you've chosen, and then reflect on that. Do I agree with this? Do I disagree with this? Why? If we accepted what Campbell was saying, what kind of impact would that have on Christianity? Is he off base? Is he right on? I'm looking for you to have some sort of reflection, analytical reflection about what he's saying. Right? Again, not just telling me what he says. That's part of it. Right? That's the summary part. But then also kind of an analysis of it. Right? Is he right? Is he not? Here's where he's strong. This is good reasoning. This is bad reasoning. Right? This is scriptural. This is not scriptural. There are a variety of ways you can approach this. So you're required to do 4. If you do all 5, I will drop the lowest grade and give you additional bonus points for completing all 5. So one way to get bonus points in the course is to complete all 5 essays, but you are only required to complete 4. So, kind of keep that in mind as you're thinking about it. That is a way to help your grade by doing all 5 essays. Each week, there will also be discussion board posts. You'll be required to do 3 posts. The first post should be in response to one of the questions that I have posed on the discussion board for that particular week. And then the other two can be to other students or can be to other questions. So I'll usually have a couple of questions that I put out as potential questions. You can respond to additional questions, or you can respond to other students. Your first post, your major post, has to be at least 100 words. So I'm looking for a substantial response. The other posts, whether in response to other questions or to other students, have to be at least 25 words. So as you're thinking about writing, I'm looking for you to say something substantial, something significant, especially if you're responding to other students. You know, I'm not looking for you to just say, I agree, good job. You can say that, but expound on it a little bit. Think about ways to add to what the person has said. Think about ways to further the discussion. Are there other things that should be considered based on what that person says? So, you know, think about that as you're writing your discussion posts. There will also be a couple of exams throughout the semester. Two of those will be unit exams. One will be in week 5, the other in week 9. It will involve some multiple choice questions or some completion questions, perhaps some short answer questions, and an essay. Probably some combination of most of those. And we'll provide a study guide at least a couple weeks before the exam, providing information about what material that you would need to know, hopefully providing some guidance as to what to focus on as you prepare for that exam. Week 5 exam will cover everything up to that point. The week 9 exam will be between, it will just be the material since the first exam to the second exam. And so it will not be comprehensive. Certainly as the study guide is put out, if you have any questions, I'd be glad to help you with them. But hopefully it's pretty straightforward as to what you will need to know. But there will be 2 unit exams, and then there will be a final exam. Now, it says comprehensive, but really only a part of it will be comprehensive. And the part that will be comprehensive is focused on some of the big ideas from the semester. So it won't be, the entire exam is not comprehensive. A part of it will just be focused on everything since the since the second exam, and then there will be a part that will be comprehensive. There will be similar types of questions on it. I'll provide you a study guide as well, and we'll have a review session, review video that will cover some information as well. So it'll be similar but slightly different in a couple of respects. A last part about grading that I want to talk about is sometimes called attendance or participation or engagement. Each week there will be several lectures that you will watch, video lectures, and as you watch them you will need to take notes, and basically this serves 2 purposes. One, demonstrates that you've watched the videos, so you're engaging in that instructional activity, getting the information that I'm looking for you to get for the course. Secondly, it helps you prepare for the exams. The exams will be drawn from the lecture material. So there are a couple of different ways you can go about this. You can just take notes, or you could just kind of summarize the video, highlighting what you think to be the main points. Either approach is fine for this assignment, although I would encourage you to to go the route of the notes, taking the notes, because I believe that would be more useful for you as preparing for the exams. I'm not looking for you to just copy the PowerPoint slides. You need to include more information so it's it's clear that you've watched the video, that you've gotten the material, and you're not just kind of skipping through it. A couple of things with that. As I mentioned, it's kind of demonstrating your participation for the course. If you don't participate in the course, in the first 14 days, you will be administratively withdrawn from the course. At this point, you could send me an email saying, hey, I watched the intro video, and that serves as participation and avoids that administrative withdrawal. But participation includes any academic assignment, submitting a discussion board post. For example, I'd like you to take the time to introduce yourself on the discussion board. That would serve as participation for that, participate in the first 14 days. But if for some reason you don't participate in the first 14 days, you could be administratively withdrawn. If you do not participate for 21 calendar days, 21 calendar days at any one point, so you go like 3 weeks without doing anything, you'll receive a W for the course and be administratively withdrawn. Both of those are subject to appeal, so if you believe there's a reason that should be reconsidered, you do have the rights of appeal. That information is found in the Canvas modules, the policies section. But just to kind of give you an idea of, if you aren't participating, then you could potentially be removed from the course. So one way to participate is to submit those notes each week. And as I mentioned, it'll also help you prepare for the exams. Here is a breakdown of the grading for the semester. If you've had me in another class, you probably know that I try to do all my classes out of 1,000 points so that at any point you can figure out where you are. Think about, okay, I have this many points. I'm trying to get, an A in the course. So how many more points do I need? And to be able to do that without having to do multiplication or other things, you're trying to figure out, okay, I got this percentage, etc. The other reason to do that is that no one assignment is going to tank your grade, that there are enough points spread out that will help you in other ways. Now, certainly, if you aren't doing the discussion posts and you aren't submitting the notes, those kind of things will add up. But no one particular assignment is going to derail you for the entire semester. So, keep that in mind as we go throughout the semester. But this gives you a breakdown as to what each of those assignments are worth. Here's the grading scale. 900 and above an A, 800 to 899 a B, etc. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you need to achieve in the course in order to get the grade you would like. Speaking of grades, if you get an assignment back, get a grade, and you believe that there is something wrong with that grade, you have some concern about how it was graded. Let's say you submit a reflective essay and you feel like, based on my comments and grade, you think that I didn't take into full consideration the work that you did, right? Perhaps I said, you should have included XYZ. And you look at your essay and say, well, I did include XYZ. It's right there. Well, get back in contact with me. Reach out to me and say, could you re-examine this grade? I believe I included XYZ as you indicated you wanted me to do. and I'll take a look at it, and if appropriate, adjust the grade. University policy is that you need to have that discussion with me within 3 days after it was graded. So once you receive it back, you have 3 days to examine it and kind of appeal the grade. So make sure to keep on top of that. I try to grade everything as quickly as I can. Usually I have everything back within a week after the due date. So, each week materials will be due on Sunday. By the next Sunday, if not sooner, I'll have your grade back to you. I try to put feedback on the assignments to give you an idea of how to improve. For some assignments, I might provide you feedback the first couple times. Let's say for discussion posts, if you're not meeting the word count, first couple weeks I'll remind you, hey, the word count is such and such. Once we get to the middle of the semester, you should know what the word count is. And so if you're not meeting the word count, I'm just going to give you a grade. If something changes, right, you're doing really well, but then you miss the word count in the middle of the semester, well, I'm going to let you know that, because your grade's going to reflect that, and then I'm going to say, well, don't forget the word count is such and such. So I'll try to provide feedback, hopefully helpful feedback, especially on the essays as you go through them. So hopefully you can improve. But if you ever need more feedback, if you're ever uncertain about why I graded something the way I did, by all means, get in contact with me. I'd be more than willing to hopefully improve upon my feedback and provide you further information. As we think about the assignments in this course, I do want to stress the importance of academic honesty. In this course, there is no research paper. There is no research required. So all the work that you are asked to submit is based off of the readings that we're doing in class, my lecture information, and the power of your brain. So you really don't need to be using any other sources other than that information. So make sure that any work you submit is your own work. If for some reason you feel the need to use some sort of outside source, right? Something beyond the lecture notes, the textbook readings, your own brain, the Bible, even if if you use something beyond that, you need to make sure that you are giving credit, right? So if you read something online and want to incorporate it in your reflection essay, make sure you are providing them credit. As I said, you do not need to use that information. You do not need to go looking for that information. I'm looking for what you think after you've read the different works. If you're not sure how to cite that information, please get in contact with me. Let me know so I can help you with that. But I'm encouraging you to do your best work. Everything that you submit should be your own work, and making sure that you are presenting your work with integrity. If you have any further questions about that, feel free to get in contact with me. If you need any sort of academic accommodations because of a documented disability, whether that's a permanent or temporary situation, make sure to get in contact with the Center for Disability Services. That information is on the syllabus. It can be provided in other formats if needed. And probably if this applies to you, you are already aware of this, and probably already, if you haven't already reached out, you are planning on doing so soon. But I would encourage you to contact them as soon as possible so that we can make sure to get you on the road to success early and get those accommodations in place as needed. So make sure to reach out to them as soon as possible. Feel free to get in contact with me at any point if I can help you in anything. I am in my office on Faulkner's main campus Monday through Thursday, 11:15 to 12:30. Keep myself available. In case you have any questions, you are welcome to call me. The phone number is listed in the syllabus. We can set up a video conference. More than willing to do that if that would be helpful. You're more than welcome to email me as well. I try to get in contact, respond within 24 hours after receiving an email. If you have not heard from me within 48 hours, feel free to re-email me. The possibility that something got overlooked. So feel free to reach out to me by email. I'm more than willing to talk in other ways if that would be preferable. So I would encourage you to get in contact with me about any questions or situations you have. If something comes up during the semester, some personal struggle, loss of a family member, an illness, feel free to get in contact with me as soon as possible. The earlier you are able to get in contact with me, the more opportunities we have to help make sure that whatever you're going through doesn't derail you. So please let me know what I can do to help. And I'm looking forward to a great semester. I hope that the course provides you with some interesting information, hopefully some things to think about. And I hope that if I can help in any way, you'll please reach out to me. And I hope you have a great semester.